Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Stephanie Search. I am the director of the Council of Neighbors of Organizations. Sorry if you were waiting in the queue there for a minute. We were just troubleshooting some technical difficulties, as sometimes happens on these webinars, so we appreciate your patience. If you're just joining us, we're just going to wait about 30 seconds to get started so everybody can join us here in the virtual world. So if you want to grab a drink, grab a coffee, grab your dinner, you'll have about 30 seconds to a minute to do that. All right, hi everyone. Once again, I'm Stephanie Search. I'm the director of the Council of Neighbors and Organizations. Thank you everybody for joining us on our second day of our CONO Cares webinar series. Tonight we have our Spaces and Places presentation, and we're going to have three great organizations and groups talking with us about how they make a space and a place in their neighborhood and what it means to the community. On the first slide here on the bottom, that's our information for CONO, for our CONO Cares campaign. So if you want to see more information about the campaign, you can head to our website there. And our phone number is at the bottom. And if you ever want to reach out to CONO regarding CONO Cares or any other issue in your neighborhood, you can always email us at information@cscono.org. Just to give you a little background about CONO, once again, we are the Council of Neighbors and Organizations. I know some of you who are joining us tonight might not know that much about CONO, so I always like to give a little rundown about our mission and what we do. Our mission is empowering neighbors and neighborhoods to take action in their communities through education and connection. There's a number of different ways that we do that. A lot is through our programs. We have cleanup days. We are the stewards of the city's block party program. We conduct leadership training, and we also provide a service called HOA and Neighborhood Answers, which essentially is just us providing resource and referral for anybody who contacts us wanting information about something taking place in their neighborhood, an issue, or anything like that. We try to help them if we can. We try to connect them with somebody within the region who can. And we also do civic education. We also do that in a number of different ways. And that is partly the reason we wanted to host the CONO Cares campaign this year. A lot of our civic education has traditionally been with city staff, city departments, county staff, county departments, elected officials. But for this educational campaign, we wanted to really highlight some neighborhood groups and organizations that are also providing resources for their community and make the public aware and educate the public a little bit about what they're doing as well. So that's why we are doing CONO Cares as a way to highlight those nonprofits and those neighborhood groups. We also do this quite a bit on the daily. Keyshawn, my coworker, and I, we partner with city and county staff, elected officials, and other nonprofit groups in the area. We also coordinate with neighbors on projects, issues, or any ideas they have for their neighborhood. And I know I just mentioned Keyshawn. He is my sidekick at CONO, and he's my sidekick here tonight. Keyshawn Cooks is our community coordinator, and I just want to introduce him. Keyshawn?
Hello, everyone. Just want to tell you thank you for participating with this. Just want to thank you for your time, and I really appreciate you guys joining tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Keyshawn. So just going on to the next slide and highlighting once again our CONO Cares campaign. This is something this is new for CONO. We're kind of doing it as a pilot, holiday campaign this year. Tonight, the leaders will share info about the good work they do each day, the challenges faced by COVID, and how residents can support them this holiday season and beyond. Tonight, our speakers are going to be from three different organizations. Daniel Bird from Kids on Bikes, Brian Elio from the Nob Hill Urban Arts District, and from the Chinook Center, Sean Walls. And we have a little bit of a Daniel, as many people know. Directors, I was just joking beforehand, directors are often juggling multiple things. So Daniel was running a little late, so I'm happy to see Daniel has joined us just in the nick of time. How are you, Daniel?
Yes, indeed. Well, I'm gonna blame COVID for a lot of things this year, and definitely technical issues, but also busyness with kids at home. So yes, it is indeed great to be here.
Awesome. Well, Daniel, like I said, it was perfect timing because I knew you were running a little late, and I was just going to say, well, Daniel's running a little late. He'll be joining us, but it was perfect timing. So
Yeah,
awesome.
indeed.
So before we jump into the questions, I just wanted to give some guidelines for the webinar. If anybody, because this is a webinar, kind of version, obviously we can't talk to one another, but you can talk through the chat, you can ask questions. We really encourage that. We really want the audience, to ask some of the panelists some questions, or even ask questions about how they can get involved in the group. So you can put any of your questions in the Q&A or the chat, and myself or Keyshawn will be monitoring that. So Daniel, you were first on my list, but I just wanted to check and see if you're kind of ready to jump in and give some background, or if you want me to go to Brian, that's okay too. We can come back to you.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm definitely ready to go.
All right, sounds good. So with each presenter, I wanted to make this a little slideshow about, with some photos about what they do. I think it's really important to, to make a connection with Spaces and Places, the organization, and the places and spaces that they are working in the community. So Daniel, on that note, looking at the screen here, looking at Kids on Bikes, tell us a little bit about Kids on Bikes. Tell us a little about your role, your background, and a little bit about the organization.
Absolutely. So Daniel Bird, Executive Director of Kids on Bikes, and we were founded back in 2005 with a very simple focus of just providing bikes to kids that otherwise would not have access to a bike. And the culture and spirit of Kids on Bikes has always been to dream big and start small, as my friend Stephanie knows well. To really make sure that a bicycle is a very, very simple tool, but it can have a very profound and significant impact in a child's life. A little bit about me is that I started my background, more or less, is as a social worker, helping youth transition out of homelessness here in Colorado Springs. Realized that there was a lot of value in a bicycle. Our bus system fairly limited, and the recreational benefits from a mental health standpoint for youth to get out there and ride their bike. It all started to come together for me as I personally had a huge passion for bicycling. So, you start with a simple idea, like getting bikes to kids who otherwise wouldn't have a bike. Now, how do you teach them? How do you equip them to be a good steward of the bike? And we found through a lot of research that a lot of kids have a bike, but maybe don't ride it simply because of flat tires, and they don't know where to begin on how to fix their own flat tire. So, with a matter of $25 and some teaching, you can teach a kid how to fix their own flat tires, and they can get back out there and ride again. So, the innovation and more or less a resourcefulness partnership mentality that has been a very cornerstone to the Kids on Bikes culture and brand, and how we've expanded our programming. We now make sure that a lot of kids in different neighborhoods throughout Colorado Springs have access to bikes on a regular basis through our bike libraries. And a bike library is a basic shipping container, and we retrofit it very inexpensively and make sure that bikes are accessible year round and they're good quality bikes. We make sure that we provide some opportunities to ride on a regular basis. So we train leaders within the neighborhood. So it might be a school counselor, it might be a therapist who lives in the neighborhood, it's just a teacher who enjoys the bicycle, him or herself. And then we just make sure, there's a lot of education that's age specific. So from a childhood development standpoint, you make sure that if it's a kindergartner, you're teaching this. If you're in third grade, you're teaching that. And if fifth grade, you're going to make sure kids understand this. And so we make sure we provide all the education that's very age appropriate to coincide with the bikes we've provided and the support that we've provided as well. So the organization I'm so proud and honored to be part of is we provide summer bike camps. We have a community bike center called the Pedal Station where we take bike donations in, we get them fixed up, and we get them back out to programs through retail, everything that's overall supports our mission. And then we've, certainly this year with 2020, we've immediately went online as best we could, and we've learned a lot, and we had our sights set in one direction. But you know what? You either adapt or you don't, and we're going to adapt and kind of go into 2021 with new ideas on how we can integrate bicycling into PE. We're going to do a lot of things in a different way, but we're also going to stay very true to our values and core principles as an organization. So we have the Community Bike Center, we have a lot of outreach events, and we've been particularly proud in this past year as we made a move with the pedal station over to the west side. We launched a mobile bike repair van that will serve as, in the southeast neighborhoods particularly, to provide just a bicycle safety inspection and then just check to make sure people's bicycles are okay. We've learned through nationwide research, national statistics, that kids are far more likely to ride a bike if parents ride with them. And so we want to make sure that we can provide a simple bicycle safety inspection, and we've begun that launch just a couple months ago, and we'll carry it through the fall and make sure it's as consistent as we can make sure that it can be. And really go into 2021 kind of realizing what the quote unquote new normal is, and provide clinics, provide learn to ride opportunities and everything that we can, and provide as much in-depth focus as we can to make sure that the people who don't have access to bikes get access to bikes, and that we have very robust partnership type collaboration to make sure that those opportunities to ride continue, not only for the kids, but for the families as well.
That's awesome, Daniel. Thanks so much. And I'm just smiling over here because every time, as many people know, I'm a bike rider. So the combination of bikes and community is like, it's just encapsulates like a lot that's real dear to me. So thanks so much for sharing, Daniel, and giving us an overview. We're going to come back. We're going to circle back to some of the topics and get a little more detail. But thanks for sharing, and so glad you're with us tonight.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here.
And so next up from Nob Hill Urban Arts District is Brian Elio. Brian, I just want to ask you the same thing. Just tell us a little bit about Nob Hill Urban Arts District, your background, what your role is there, and also just a little background on the group.
Sure. Thanks for having us, by the way.
Absolutely.
So we were founded roughly 2.5, maybe 3 years ago. We're a full nonprofit. We have a 501c3 status, and we basically have been putting up murals in the Nob Hill neighborhood primarily. I've lived in Colorado Springs. It's going on about 23 years now. I moved here. The Air Force brought me here, and I do architecture for a living. I'm not licensed, but that's what I do. And so through my career, I started to get more involved in the community, not being from here. And public art is kind of a passion of mine. And so when I saw this group doing things that no one had been really done in Colorado Springs before, a focus on urban art and a focus on Nob Hill as a neighborhood, as kind of thinking myself, just thinking about urban planning and how things work. When you really think about the circulation of Colorado Springs, Nob Hill is in the middle. And it's one of the older neighborhoods in the city. It was founded when the city was more or less founded. And it's a really neat neighborhood. It's got a lot of weird bones in the sense that there's a lot of businesses and neighborhoods, and everything is more or less disjointed. There's a 50-mile-an-hour highway that cuts the neighborhood in half with only 2 crosswalks to get across. So it's a really interesting challenge from an urban planning perspective, I guess. But I saw what was going on Facebook. The crew, before I got involved, they had done at least 2 festivals and several different murals. We were founded by Pace. He's a tattoo artist in town, and he had a tattoo shop in Nob Hill, but he's also a muralist. And he was like, there's a bunch of blank walls, we should paint them. Literally went in, asked business owners, can I paint on your wall? And they said, sure, why not? And
Awesome.
and so I started seeing some of the activity on Facebook and just kind of wondering what they were up to. I reached out and asked if I could be involved, mostly because I understand, the formalities of public art. I was on the city's public arts commission for a number of years, and I know a lot of the community arts organizations. I help out with the What If Festival and Imagination Celebration for many years. Help out with Concrete Couch for a number of years in still. And so I was just like, I can kind of help congeal anything that they wanted to do and try to push things forward. But we really started out just very informal, I don't think the artists expected the business owners to say yes so fast and so often that we were just like, what is going on? They're giving us carte blanche to paint on a 28-foot tall, 150-foot long wall. And the guy gave us all 3 sides. And then the neighbor gave us, 2 or 3 sides, and then the next business, and then the people across the street, and then other people. And so it just turned into this crazy, crazy thing. But before I got involved, in one of my first events was they had already organized a cleanup. So they contacted CONO. CONO got us a big roll-off dumpster, and we did a walk up and down Platte picking up trash. Probably 60 people showed out, and it was really great. And then we've hosted several other events. But that really got us thinking, like, what else can we do in the community, and with the way that I kind of approach public art, that's really what it's all about. It's not kind of like I exemplified. It's easy to walk into a business, talk to the owner, and let them say yes to putting a painting on the wall. but that's not community. That's just a painting on a wall. How can we use art to break the ice or to get other people involved? And so that's really what we're trying to do, is use art as an icebreaker, use art as a communicator, use art to get people involved who normally probably wouldn't be involved, and to really focus on Nob Hill. Like I said, with my work and just working with the city, there's no master plans for Nob Hill. There's no revitalization efforts. There are no community organizations over there trying to work on this stuff. Southeast has struggled for a long time, but there are a number of organizations who've come online trying to lift up down there. And there's just nothing in Nob Hill. And so I started going to community. There is a community organization. I went to several meetings, and far and away, most people were like, the last thing we need in Nob Hill is art. We need this fixed. We need that fixed. There's this problem. Police don't respond to this. There's this. And so it was just issue after issue after issue. And that was maybe a year ago. a year and a half ago. So we started to try to have community events. So we held a community event, most like a town hall, you know, where we were hoping that people would come out and basically, you know, complain to us, and then we would try to figure out how to fix it. And so we really just got that going when COVID hit. We even had to cancel a couple of events that we had planned. And so now, you know, the art is going. Business owners love us. We're starting to work outside of Nob Hill. We're getting grants. We're you know, coordinating with other organizations and other arts businesses, but we're really missing the community part. But Nob Hill, it's a really tough thing from a planning perspective because of the highway, and because of the type of businesses that are over there, you know, pawn shops and car dealerships and paint, auto body stuff, places that aren't, you know, casual, that you can just go hang out.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons, Brian, thanks for sharing all that info. I think it gives people a perspective on not just what you do, but what your group is hoping to do also. And I think, as if you guys see me looking down, I'm just writing a couple notes so I can circle back to some of these topics with you. But I think, you know, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on was exactly what you just wrapped up saying is, you know, we are artists in the community and we're doing these things, but we're also hearing that the community has lots of other needs and we want to help mobilize, you know, some efforts for those needs too. So you're providing such a value with the art for sure. And I love how you said the businesses were so, you know, so embracing of that. But I also, we'll circle back to this a little bit, but also talk about how your group is now using this art, you know, to once again tackle some of those other issues in the community and bring those to light. So Brian, I'm really happy that you're with us, and we'll have probably a couple more questions and a little more detail we'll get from you. So
Great.
awesome. And then last but not least, by far, is Chinook Center. And we have Sean Walls.
Hi.
And Sean, just same thing. Just tell us a little bit about your background, what you do, and also a little bit about the Chinook Center.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Sean Walls. I was born and raised on the south side of Colorado Springs. I went to Harrison High School, graduated from Harrison High School. I'm a 20-year veteran from the United States Army. I just got finished in 2017, and ever since then, I've you know, kind of been task driven on getting my community squared away and things that I saw that needed to get fixed or whatnot. I opened a restaurant right when I got out of the Army, and that was the Wall Street Eatery over at the Satellite Hotel. And also, you know, we had a few organizations that we were trying to figure out, and kind of like what Brian was saying, you know, we saw so many things that needed to get fixed and we were having problems. And you know, nationally, you know, we were seeing the police, you know, the brutality that was going on online and things like this. And you know, we just, there was a buzz that we needed to start to act. So anyway, to how the Chinook Center came about was the police murdered Devon Bailey in the summer of 2019, and you know, our community galvanized around this, and John and Sam Christiansen had this great idea that they were building on as well. You know, before the uprising and things of this summertime came about, they were running educational programming. Well, you know, I guess it started last March. The People's College, sorry, started up last March, and it was an effort to kind of you know, pass information along and teach one another as activists and organizers in the community exactly what it was, and you know, the history of activism in Colorado Springs, and you know, just things that were needed to kind of build a foundation for your organization. And you know, it really took off. It was great. And then, you know, COVID happened to us all, you know. So we were in the process of well, actually, before, let me kind of back up a little bit, because we were in the space where Chinook Center is now on 2551 Airport Road at number 107, the suite number is. And we, the idea of the place was to create a space that was, gave the ability, Brian kind of laid out an issue out in Nob Hill where, there was action happening with the art and stuff, but the people in the community were saying, hey, we need these things and we need this to happen. And there wasn't a resource for them to get that to happen. And that we were encountering the same kind of issues, with our programming. We were at the library and in our houses holding meetings with, stuff in our car. And it was just, we didn't have a place to do these things that we needed to do on the level that we needed to do it at. Yeah. So, the Chinook Center came about, and we got a space down there in K-Land. And since then, that was last August. And since then, we've had 7 organizations join, community organizations that, were already active and just needed the space to have the resource. We have a conference room where they can hold meetings and copy capabilities. And we also run our grocery, our people's grocery out of there. So we have a free pantry that we run every Sunday from 11 to 2. And yeah, so, it has a kitchen in there and stuff where we can hold non-perishables. And we, got a few grants where we were able to put a cold storage in there. So we got some refrigeration so we can keep some things cold or whatnot. And, weekly, we've been on the average giving about 400 pounds of food every week on Sundays. And, as soon as it happened, along with a lot of the things that the other organizations were doing, as soon as we got the space, I mean, things just instantly blossomed, you know what I mean? And it showed that the things that not only that we were doing, was needed in the community, but it needed a foundation and needed a place where it can be. And, I guess, that's kind of been the story of it ever since. It's been a whirlwind, it's kind of hard to wrap everything that's going on in a nutshell, but, hopefully we could cover a few things in the discussion.
No, that's awesome, Sean. Thanks for all the background. I really also, I think everybody too, hopefully that's viewing, really enjoys hearing just the history of the organizations and how they came about. And I like what you said there a few minutes ago, just, you needed a space, like you needed a home to be able to do, some of the activities that you had, and that people needed, needed a place where they can gather and
right.
Education and talk about things and really learn about how to be voices in their community. And before we move on to and go to the next question, Keyshawn's going to have a question for us. I did want to highlight too, and I tried to do this with just all of you guys, you do so much for the community. It's hard to put on one PowerPoint, but the number of different services that the Chinook Center offers, I think it's just like you described it very eloquently. It's a space, it's you're offering essential needs for people, but you're also teaching them ways to take action and be a voice in their own community too. So so that's awesome.
Yeah, and that education, is kind of a mutual aid type of thing, because that we have organization that, for instance, Black and Pink, their goal is de-incarceration, and they communicate with the LGBTQ community that are incarcerated. And being able to have an organization that is that's already, because Black and Pink is a national organization that is already, set up. And then for an organization like Southside Alliance that started up, after the Chinook Center opened this year. And for everybody, and then K-Land Community Cares, they got one body, it's an entertainment group, and then we have a radio station as well. So all of these people that are doing different things in the community, they all get a chance to talk to each other and become friends, and then we get to organize our events, so we're not doing 2 and 3 events on the same day, and we're making sure that the community gets maximum benefit from the work that all of these individual groups are doing. So it's a really great thing.
No, that's awesome. And that's, like I said, that's one of the reasons we wanted to have Chinook Center here, is to really talk about what we call, placemaking, when you can bring different partners together and really just make a true place like in the community. So we appreciate that, Sean, and we're so glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
So I am going to stop sharing my screen and kind of just get us all together in the virtual world here. So I hope everybody, all our viewers, saw a little bit about each organization. As I mentioned, if you do have questions in the chat or questions for the panelists, put them in the chat, and Keyshawn and I will monitor that. Keyshawn, we'll go on to a question from you.
All right. So, what type of culture do you want to establish with your organizations, or what type of message do you want to send to people who are coming to your places?
And we'll just for the sake of making sure everybody gets to answer, we'll just kind of go in the same rotation. So we'll have Daniel take that one first.
What a brilliant question.
I know he's great. That's why I'm honored like to work with him every day. I know. I'm just asking the boring questions. He's just asking like the real thoughtful ones.
Love it. I mean, and culture creates everything. It creates the foundation of which your decisions are made and everything else. For the culture we've created and that I try to create constantly, and I'll preface this with some context, is that right now we're doing annual reviews for every staff member, because it all starts with who you have and why you have them and why you put them in the seats that you have them. Because it's been a rocky year, I already feel myself getting so emotional, and I'm only emotional out of joy because I'm so grateful for the team that we have. And I was telling them even just today how, marketing starts with HR. It starts with them. It starts with who they are and what their heart is about. And, the culture piece is so pivotal in the directions you go as an organization. And if you're successful as an organization in any direction you set out, you attract more people and more talent and so forth. So it becomes all the more important to know what your culture is. For Kids on Bikes, our culture, it starts with the board of directors and the leadership.
Oh, Daniel, I think we lost you. You're on mute.
And entrepreneurial. Sorry. The culture of Kids on Bikes being very innovative, entrepreneurial, really starting with the question of what if we could take this, using the placemaking example, what if we could take this old, dilapidated, ugly, and slightly unsafe bridge and make it into a place for bicycle education? And that's the popsicle bridge. And sometimes when something just seems so silly to argue against, it can become true. What if we start with this big vision, but we start small? And what if we do this? What if we do that? But that's a very entrepreneurial type of spirit. The culture is very innovative, and to say, well, we could all agree that the bicycle is a basic rite of passage for any child. How creative do you want to get in making sure that happens? Yeah. So it's not a matter, for us, it's been relatively easy in some ways. But because you can go in so many directions, sometimes it's so critical to know your identity, and culture often starts internally, and then you have to constantly recheck it internally and time again, refocus. and make sure, okay, so we're starting all these things and, you know, we're going in all these directions. All right, are we staying true to our values and so forth? And so, gosh, yeah, I think those are the two words. I'm gonna try to step back for a second. Innovation, entrepreneurial, with the goals to dream big and then start small, small steps. Constantly keeping your eyes on that. What do you dream about? What do you want? What do you know? And what are you hearing from your stakeholders? What do you hear from them? If you're paying attention to all those things constantly and you're not afraid to fail, and knowing in fact that your failures will teach you and redirect you and constantly guide you, it's like, okay, that's our culture. And you have to be okay with that. If you're going to work here, you have to be independent. You're going to have to be super resourceful, and you're just going to have to be okay with failing. And we're okay with you failing.
Yeah. No, that's great, Daniel. Like and you go back to the the start small, dream big. And I know you didn't talk about this, but just let our viewers know too. Like Kids on Bikes was an organization that started out as many organizations do, with an all volunteers at first, and then went to a staff of one or two, and now it's grown exponentially. So I think that gives a lot of hope to organizations or groups that are just getting started and are just looking toward the future. And so that's awesome. Keyshawn, we're gonna have Brian go next, but Brian, do you we want Keyshawn, maybe you want to ask the question again, just so.
Yeah. So, what kind of culture do you want to establish with your organization, or what is like the message you want to send to people?
Yeah. So when we first started, it's very simple. The initial thing is very simple. We want you to, as you're driving through Nob Hill, or if you're buying a couch from Platt Furniture, we want you to, or some tools from Cash's Pond, we want you to look around and realize and think, there's no place like this in Colorado Springs. And it's easy to do because we have filled the walls with art. But when you look past the art, you see the other uniqueness, and so the first things first is, wow, I didn't know Colorado Springs had an urban arts culture. And a couple questions came through on the chat that'll kind of tie into that. And so really that's what it was. We wanted to start doing as much as we could, as fast as we could, to show people there is an urban arts culture here. And to basically call all of the artists to us, all of the cats who used to tag, who want to do murals, come here, we can get you a place to do some work. That was the first thing. And it was really, we are, 3 of the 5 of us are artists, visual artists. I'm not a visual artist. And so that's really what it was. But we were all like, okay, this is not going to last more than 6 months, because we're always used to getting kicked out and arrested and the cops called on us and all of these things. And none of that really happened. And so
in fact, the opposite sounds like it happened, right, Brian? It was embraced by the business owners.
It was, absolutely. And we've had schools reach out to us. So we're going to start working with some principals. We did an arts supply, like an art school supply fund drive. We figured we're artists, we'll raise art supplies for the arts class,
That's awesome.
And so, but now what has happened, after going to some community organization, there is a community organization in Nob Hill, but after going to a couple of those meetings, they aren't as effective as they need to be.
Mhm.
And it's an organization of businesses and neighbors. And the first meeting I went to was pretty well attended. Most of the other meetings after were not. And I don't live in Nob Hill, and I don't have a business there. And so I'm very sensitive to gentrification. And I don't want to come in and tell people what they need and how to do what they need to do. But I know how to get that stuff done. At least I know the people who to talk. I know who to talk to in the city, and I know how to. If they're not going to listen, I know how to get louder. And if we can't get louder, then we'll get other organizations involved. And so that's kind of where we are now. With COVID and with all of the civil unrest and all of that stuff going on over this past year, has really shown the importance to us that we're on the right path. Like I said, we started out being like, I don't know, can we do this? How long is it going to last?
Yeah.
And we were embraced by the arts community, we were embraced by the businesses, we're embraced by artists, and so many of the artists feel like we've worked with over 50 artists now, but it's probably not. I know we've done more. We've done over 50 murals because we'll paint the same space, like maybe 3 or 4 times. But a lot of the artists are local, and we're starting to get funding, and so now we're wanting to put. So that's what we want to do. We want to provide a place for people to really work on their chops and get their mural skills up, anchored with some high quality professional murals, and just see what we can do and how far we can go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then and like I said, use art as an icebreaker. Get the community involved, get the community to come out and check out some art, but then figure out what's missing, and how can we help to get it there.
That's awesome, Brian. I did want to touch upon, something you said just about, having the art embraced and kind of just by the business. It's by the community. You're representing, by the community, and then it's going to translate into them, into you guys being able to do other things with the community, identifying other needs, and maybe getting that.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of like searching for my words here. We're getting that voice, for other needs in the community, whereas, art kind of mobilized this, and so it's great too. And one of the things I want to, before we jump to Sean, I wanted to say, on the pictures that I put up of some of the work that you guys have done, I intentionally put one up that wasn't from Nob Hill, just to let viewers know too, that your influence on public art and on urban art has now kind of dispersed to other parts of the city as well. So that's a big part of, I think, is placemaking, is when our message, kind of carries out, into other parts of the community too. So.
Absolutely. And I do want to say, though, it hasn't been all warm and fuzzy. I mean,
no.
We've definitely got some complaints, and we've definitely got some community folks that are not happy with what we're doing. And we want to be amenable to that,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I'm glad that you added that too, and work with the community and address those things too, because I think anytime we try something new, you are going to always run into going to run into just some discussion about it, and some people who want to voice a different opinion. So I appreciate you bringing that up too,
Yeah,
Brian.
thank you.
Awesome. Well, Sean, you are next.
Okay. Oh yeah. So
sorry.
I think
Sorry,
I think
please,
that
why don't you ask your question again, because it was a great
no,
question.
I remember the culture and the message. I think that just listen to them talk. We really haven't. Chanut's culture is organic. Our organizations and our community create what we are and what we're focused on and how we go about what we're going to do. And I think that I think that's the best way to just say, and as far as our message, we don't have a message for anyone in particular. I believe that our communities, our community, our people they talk to each other and ourselves, and our programming is our message. And, you know, we care about each other. We care about building a foundation, you know, a caring and welcoming foundation. You know, really, I pride myself and we pride each other in knowing that the only thing that's not welcome there is the police, and everybody else, you know, as long as we're, you know, we're taking care of each other, and we're good. You know, we have a culture of resistance, you know, building people power and community power. There's a whole lot of different ways to do that. And our community shows that. You know, I tell people a lot that, you know, the world will feed us poison by the pound, and our community and people will always regurgitate the cure for that poison. And I believe that that's what our culture is, you know, is fixing things that we had that we didn't do to ourselves and that we had no control over. But we have the cure for it as long as we stick together.
That's awesome. Thanks, Sean, for sharing. That's
Yeah.
a great message. And I did want to call out, because I don't think I've mentioned it yet. Your mission statement is building people, power, and community.
Yeah.
Right?
I hope I said that in there somewhere, but
yeah, I think you probably did.
It's definitely you know, in a nutshell, if you can, that's what it is.
Yeah, and you do that in a lot of different ways. So
Most
I just
definitely.
wanted to call that out as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Because that kind of says it all, you know, building
Yeah.
people, power, and community. So
Exactly. Yeah.
well, awesome. Well, thanks for the question, Keyshawn, and thanks for sharing, you guys. I'm going to jump real quick because we did get a couple of questions in the Q&A in the chat. We do get a lot of thanks here. Thanks to all of you. You're doing great work in the community. We did have a couple questions though. A couple for all of you, but a few, just one or two for specifics. So I know there was one about funding. I'm trying to navigate here.
Yeah, I saw that one. I actually wrote down the answer for that. Someone asked them, how do we get funding for our programming?
Yeah,
And
go for that.
most of our funding for the Chinook Center comes through small donations from the community. You know, each of our programs are presented to the community individually. So, and they're also, you know, on our website that, you know, folks are able to pick which program they want to support. So yeah, we and then, you know, we really show that what they give it goes directly to what they said, that what we said it was going to go to. So we do have a lot of support through the small donations. We did get a few grants for the People's Grocery, and that's the like I mentioned earlier, for the pantry that we run every Sunday. Yeah. And we're able to give fresh foods and also the non-perishables to folks as well. So we never run out, and it's been a really great thing for us and for the community, because you know, before Sam Christianston and Jenna Kempton, and there was a few other folks that were really dedicated to the People's Grocery and grew it to what it is now. Being able to see that it came from literally packing bags in the back of our trunks, and you know, their trunks, and you know, we did a thing for ComCore as well, and we filled the van up and we took groceries to ComCore once the COVID happened, and you know, they were locked down or whatnot. So anyway, just to watch it grow from such a small thing to be so huge, and you know, the potential for it to get big, you know, who knows how big it can get. You know, it's definitely a need in our community, and you know, it's become an expected resource, you know, for our community. So,
and a very important one during this time, especially. And the reason I'm smiling is because I always think about those like early days of nonprofits where they, you know, they tell you stories about, you know, we were just like packing up boxes and hauling them in our cars, and you know, but really, like that's so, it's just, that's the beauty of it, you know. You know, everything originates from these simple ideas that meet community needs. So thanks for sharing.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you.
And I have one other question, but I do want to just touch on the funding issue, if we could, real quick, for the other groups, because I know, of course, you know, everything does take funding, you know, in order for groups to carry out their work in the community. You know, everything costs a little dough. So what about the other groups? Brian, I want to go to you. How do you get funding for your art projects?
Well, originally it was obviously just kind of out of our pockets. Two of us were, well, three of us are professional painters. So there were a lot of leftover materials that we could use for stuff too. We really didn't we really didn't think the owners would chip in, you know. We didn't really have enough confidence for that. I think a few of them have paid for paint here and there. But since we decided to go for what was kind of a big grant last summer, and that's where we won, and that's where we painted the food access mural. And so we only used about half of those funds for that mural. So we've been kind of slowly stringing them out over the year. And then we've gotten a few in-kind donations. Sorry, I need to get some more water. We've gotten a few in-kind donations. We've gotten a couple of other smaller grants, things like that. You know, we're really just trying to get some more grants, I think. The city doesn't have a funded public arts program, but the state of Colorado has state money for public art.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a few organizations in Denver that give on a state level. And so we've gone after some of those grants, and that's where we got the money for the food access mural. And that was in cooperation with El Paso County Health Department and with the Colorado Springs Food Rescue. And so the intent was to do that mural and then to have like farmers markets and food access education basically in front of that mural. But then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And so we had two events with masks and distancing that were specifically for food. But then some Black Lives Matter creates folks, they needed a space. And so we pulled our space together for them and got the building owners involved. A lot of that area is private property. And so in some of the parking lots, we can hold events and we don't need permits or anything because it's all private property.
Yeah.
And so that's been helpful.
Thanks for sharing, Brian, too. And I did just want to touch on something that a lot of people aren't aware of. And you know, I'm a huge advocate and proponent of the value of public art. But I did want to bring up that Colorado Springs, you know, unfortunately does not have a funding source for public art. So I just wanted to bring awareness that when our audience does drive around and kind of see the art installations, they were generally either donated art or project-based art or some other organizations that, you know, that some other nonprofit, lots of nonprofit organizations.
Right. Yeah, like exactly. Like the
funds.
downtown partnership is an independent nonprofit. They are not part of the city. Copper is an independent nonprofit. They're not part of the city. A lot of folks don't realize that, and they can go away. You know, they are independent. They are doing their own thing. None of this public art has anything to do with hardly anyone at the city, outside of maybe a few, you know, conditional use permits or revocable permits or something like that. It's all, yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up too, because like I said, I just wanted to make the audience aware of that too. And now I do want to mention the city did just pass the the public arts master plan, so I was happy to see that. And this before we leave the funding topic, Daniel, did you want to share just real quick, how is Kids on Bikes funded?
So we have a few different the traditional nonprofit ways in which we get funded: individual giving, foundations, grants, which we continue to pursue, and then earned revenue through our summer bike camps and the pedal station, our community bike center. So we have a fairly diversified financial support stream, more or less, that is all mission aligned and different dynamics that we focus on to grow the mission for sure. So funded through lots of different ways, more or less, as it feels. Uh, and then of course, yeah, sorry, I was processing there for a second, but in-kind donations, of course, and the value of that is is enormous as well. So when a bike is donated, that's boom right there. There's $250 value right
Yeah.
there in the bike. It's just how we determine of what best use that one bike will go to fulfill our mission.
Well, thanks, Daniel. That kind of segues into the kind of probably what we'll use as a wrap-up question for all of you guys. One of the reasons we want to do the CONO Cares campaign was, A, to highlight just different nonprofit groups and organizations, in our community that were doing good work, and we really just wanted to give them a platform to share with the public what they do and how they can access, their resources, but the other part was we really recognize that a lot of groups who are doing this work also, they're providing things that to the community, they're providing value, but they also need contributions as well. And they also have needs to kind of keep their work up, to keep what, to sustain what they're doing in the community. So maybe each of you could tell us a little bit about how can the public help? How can, what your needs are, how they've maybe changed during COVID, what they are right now, and how can people contribute? Is it in-kind donations? Is it monetary donations? Is it just spreading the word about the group, and how can they do that? And we'll go back to Sean. How about you?
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah. So first, this is a hard thing, especially for us, because, you don't want to seem as though you're not grateful or have gratitude for whatever people decide to bring and donate to the community or whatnot. But I would say the best way for the Chinook Center is one, to look at our page and see which programs you might be interested in. And we're interested in mutual aid. So if there's things that you can offer to the program or to the programming, then to enhance it, then those are the things that we're looking for. And things of value, that we can't create ourselves or do ourselves. So if there's something that you can do for the Chinook Center in those ways, and to help in our programming, to be enhanced or whatnot, yeah, we would appreciate that. Always, we kind of say, like, the money is the thing, right? So being able to have when we run out of fresh produce or something like that, and we still have a line of folks out that are there, we want to be able to run to the grocery store and find something out of the bin there that we can still fill these bags up with. Or I wanted to point out that Care and Share and the Food Rescue are fantastic resources for our city, and we appreciate them and everything that they do for us. Because once you talk to a bunch of folks, you hear the Colorado Springs Rescue, the rescue ahead, and they're reaching out, and like their effect is great around the city. So everyone that's taking advantage of that and making sure that it gets spread to the people where it needs to go, I really appreciate everyone that's doing so. But things like that, we can take non-perishable food items. A lot of times we get questions about clothes and shoes and things of this nature. And although we do recognize that there's people in the community that might need it and do need it, we don't have programming for these things. So we end up taking them to places like the God's Pantry down in Fountain, mm-hmm. and other places that that or maybe other programs that we hear about that are running that need those things. So if you could just find exactly where these programs are and get that stuff directly to them, is this form of mutual aid, right? So that it'll help us to be able to focus on what we're doing as well. So and again, we're really grateful for folks that go on our website and check it out and donate to us. There's a whole bunch of different options to be a sustainer or to be a one-time donator. And yeah, we got clothes and shirts and things like this that you can do, so we have organizations have merchandise that you might be interested in, those are great ways to be able to support them.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Sean. It sounds like if people just hop on the website, they'll be able to find that info.
Yeah.
That you can contribute.
Yeah, everything is there. Everything is there.
Awesome. Great. Thanks. And Brian, how about the in Nob Hill? What can the community do for you guys to support you, and what needs do you have?
Well, like Sean was saying, it's in a lot of ways, it's really just purely financial. At its kind of most basic. But the more other things that I'm kind of looking for is that community reach. We want people who want to be involved in Nob Hill, and who want to kind of turn that into the gem that it really has the potential to be. That's the biggest piece missing right now. And I was going to say something else to that effect. Any artists, hit us up.
Brian, how is it best to contact you guys, or just kind of see some information about what you do through the Facebook page?
It's easiest through Facebook right now. There's a couple of us that monitor the page regularly. We have an email address. I think it's long though, like Nob Hill Urban Arts or something. But the Facebook page, we're on there often. There was something else I wanted to say about how you can kind of help us.
It'll come back. It'll come back. That happened to me like 3 times today.
But I mean, we're really just trying to get more out into the community. I'm a little more sensitive to the COVID times, and so I'm really kind of isolated. But like I said, Muji's been going out there, and we have other ideas. I mean, we have ideas that are not murals. I'll throw one out, is that we have an idea for an art park. We've got a couple building owners in the Nob Hill that are amenable to it, and so we're very slowly working on that. But go out. This is what you can do. You can go out, take a picture of yourself in front of a mural, tag us, tag CONO, and just spread the word. Because that's really what has happened. I think people saw what was going on, and they were like, hey, why can't we have a mural down here? And so, the Downtown Partnership has been doing more murals. You're seeing more murals pop up in Old Colorado City. And, we're trying not to say, we feel like we definitely helped inspire that. But there can be so much more. I mean, we've only begun, only begun.
I definitely like to say that we want you on the South Side, man. We want art down here, and we would love to have the Urban Art District as a part of the Chinook Center as well, because that's
awesome.
exactly the kind of things that we're down for. So anyway,
awesome.
Come down.
We should down here, man. Well, and
Indeed.
That's the thing, man. Like, getting grants, it's all about teaming,
Right.
And so we can find, and that was the thing. Like, we can get money for art. We can use only half the money for the art and use half the money for something else.
Fantastic.
No, I think that's awesome. And I'm just throwing this out. We're getting to the end of our hour here, but just throwing this out to the people who are in the audience too. We often get questions at CONO, like honestly, all the time about art. People say, we saw this, we saw that. How can we get that in our neighborhood? So if anybody ever has questions for the neighborhood, I always tell them reach out to CONO. You can always email us information@cscono.org. We can sort of help mobilize the parties that might be able to, to get some public art, installed in that particular neighborhood. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to bring Nob Hill on today, to make people aware of who they are and what they do, and that their work isn't, and their resources aren't limited to, in terms of art, aren't limited to just the Nob Hill community. And I know, Brian, I don't want to speak for you, but you've expressed that you'd like to share that kind of knowledge and expertise with other neighborhoods as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely help with that. Like I said, we wouldn't come into your neighborhood and being like, this is what you need. But we can help, we can help facilitate a process to understand what you might want to get out,
Yeah. Awesome. And then Daniel, I think I lost you on the video here, but let me see. Are you still with us?
I'm still here.
Oh.
Start my, okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is always like a challenge to navigate all this in the virtual world here. Well, you think you know it, and then sometimes you don't.
Oh, it's totally
so,
fine.
what
I have-
what needs does Kids on Bikes have right now, and how can the community contribute to Kids on Bikes during this time?
Well, um, we're very fortunate, first and foremost, in that bicycling during COVID was a very acceptable thing,
Yeah.
and it also helped highlight the value of what we can provide. Um, I think I already shot Sean a message about how we can bring our mobile
Love it.
bike safety check service to the food
This is
banks.
like,
So
this is
Sean,
exactly why I had this. This is
yeah,
great.
no, I know, I love it.
Ryan and Sean
Um,
are talking. We're talking. This is great. Love it.
so I'll just say it's like, so Sean, check your email.
I
But
will.
and Ryan, we're in Nob Hill and everything. Honestly, we take bike donations anytime, all the time, no matter what it is. Bring the bikes in so we can do what we do, and then we can do things that would support the work that Sean is doing, the work that Brian is doing.
Because I'll say,
It just needs to get more deeply rooted. Sorry, Brian, what'd you say?
no, I was going to say that reminds me. So through some other work that I've done, I know Alan Beauchamp, and so we were brainstorming even doing like a bike mural path, like a bike trail. You know, you could ride your bike and see the murals.
Yeah. and
Right.
see the girls.
Right.
Yeah, there you
Fabulous.
go. There you go.
So it's that kind of
So-
thing too.
Yeah. I would honestly, anybody paying attention, I would say Kids on Bikes doesn't need anything other than your bike donations. But if you have if you have the financial capacity to give to Sean, give to Brian, give to CONO, so that CONO can do what CONO is doing. Because had Stephanie not reached out to do this, I wouldn't learn about the good work that Sean is doing. And, if people are waiting in line at a food bank and they have a bike and they want to make sure it's safe to ride, we can bring in our people to make sure that, those bikes are good to ride. So, I count my blessings every day this time of year, especially this year of all years. So, we're good. We just want to get more people engaged with their own neighborhood, because that's kind of how we've positioned our program model to be most effective, is that we come alongside people, we bring our bikes into the neighborhood, and then we ask the question, how do you see bicycles helping kids in your neighborhood and families and so forth? So it's a wonderfully generous question to be asked, but I turn it around to say, well, we're on this call for specifically bring the bikes, but anything else, put it out there to those that are needing it most and hurting most this time of year. It's cold outside. We got to make sure that people have their needs met, the most fundamental of needs. Let's start there, and then give to CONO. That's what I'd say.
Oh, well, thanks, Daniel. We appreciate that, and we appreciate everything that you guys are doing. And last night I did cry, and I'm crying again because you guys are awesome. This is why I became the director of CONO. This is why, this is exactly it. Bringing people together, sharing resources, and sharing inspiration, and also just sharing discussion. When topics come up that we need to be addressed in the community, being able to have those partners, to be able to talk about things too. So I appreciate all of your work. We are kind of coming to the end of our hour here. We're going a little past it. I want to just send a thanks to everybody who tuned in tonight and everybody who tuned in last night, and everybody who was part of our CONO Cares campaign and supported us in that. I wish I could sit here and, I could talk for another hour easily and ask a bunch of other questions. So but unfortunately we have to wrap it up here tonight. I want to thank my sidekick, Keyshawn Cooks, our community coordinator at CONO, and our audience. I'm glad we had a lot of participants tonight tune in. Please take this information, share it with your friends and neighbors. I do want to mention, I didn't mention this at the beginning, I forgot. We are going to be sending a kind of a summary of information about the 3 featured organizations tonight. We're going to send that out in a separate email to any participant who is registered tonight. So if you didn't have time to jot down info about the organizations or their website or their Facebook page, we're going to send out an email with all that info in it. So to wrap up, I just want to thank most of all our guests here tonight on our CONO Cares Spaces and Places webinar, Brian Elio from the Nob Hill Urban Arts District, Sean Walls from the Chinook Center, and Daniel Bird from Kids on Bikes. Thanks so much for joining us, for sharing your info, and for sharing your love and passion for building our community. And everyone, have a great night and a happy holiday.
All power.
Thanks a bunch.
Thank you so much. I hope we do it again soon.